And so you have this fat over those muscles, and then if you start increasing the size of the muscle, the fat gets pushed out, right? And so it makes you look kind of puffy. And this is why some of these, fitness models, right? You get a 6 foot tall guy who's about around 200 pounds or whatever. He's going to look great, right? He's got that athletic build. He's not overly large. He kind of looks like Frank Zane from the golden era of bodybuilding. He looks like a beach, he's got his beach body, beach model, look and stuff. Looks great, right? Now, if he had 30% body fat though, over those muscles, guaranteed he'd be looking like a sumo wrestler, okay? So it's not the muscles that are making you look bloated and fat. It's the fact that you're not eating a diet that's conducive to losing fat, and so as the muscles are getting bigger, you're just pushing your fat out. Hello guys, Aaron Kubitz, personal trainer, functional aesthetics EC, helping average guys perform better inside and outside the gym. Today's video I'm going to be talking about the concept I was reminded of, and I actually hear this quite frequently, but it popped into my mind from a conversation I just recently had with a female client of mine. So in my videos I always start them out talking about helping guys perform better inside and outside the gym. And so most of my clients are guys. However, I do help women out from time to time. And this tends to be a more prevalent concern with women, particularly because women don't want to bulk up. They don't want to get bigger, right? They want to get that quote unquote toned look, which in actuality, as we know, is having less body fat while maintaining your muscle or even slightly increasing your muscle mass. Oftentimes a person can have arms that look, lean, slender, toned and whatnot, and they actually have more muscle mass than a person whose arms don't look as good. They don't look as lean and stuff. And we're not talking about having bulging muscles either and stuff, because that actually requires you to work even harder, right? To get that. It's not super simple depending on who you are. Now there are certain people, right, who can build a lot of muscle mass relatively quickly, right? But it's not usually the easiest thing in the world to actually build muscle. What more often is the case that happens with people is that they will be what I like to call eating a mass gain diet while exercising for fat loss. So years ago, probably back in about 2018, I wrote an article on Facebook called "Are You Exercising for Fat Loss but Eating a Mass Gain Diet?" And what I meant by this is that many times people will tend to reduce their calories because it's common sense, right? That if you want to lose weight, you would need to be taking in less energy than you are expending, right? And so you have your base metabolic rate, which is the primary way that you burn calories. Most of the calories that you burn in a day are to come from just what it takes to run your body. I recently actually found out that under ideal circumstances, your body can synthesize about 250 grams of itself per day, right? It can repair and rebuild 250 grams of that, and then it takes about 700 calories to do that, right? And this is one reason why growing children and stuff can expend so many, are eating so much all the time and staying thin, is because their body is still growing, they're still regenerating, right? And so most of the calories that you're burning are not coming from the activities of daily living, like if you have a manual labor job or you're plowing fields or chopping logs or something. Most of it's actually coming from just keeping you alive. But your body wants to maintain homeostasis, so that level can go up or it can go down, because your body wants to kind of stay within a certain range. That's why oftentimes if you go and run for a couple hours, you're going to be massively hungry afterwards and have to eat a lot of food, because your body's like trying to maintain itself where it wants to be, right? Okay, so that's the one way. Now, and so when people want to lose weight, they would reduce their calories, right? And then but if you're reducing your calories and you're not focusing on where those calories are coming from, you will lose weight, right? But if you want to lose weight, not just lose weight, but lose body fat, because if you lose weight, you're just going to end up as a smaller version of what you were before, right? You can be skinny, but still be fat, okay? And so if you want to have the definition, if you want to have sculpted arms like women like to have, right, you need to be maintaining or increasing muscle mass while also simultaneously reducing body fat. And the only way to do that is by eating properly. You need to maintain protein levels at the same level as they were before, or even slightly higher than they were before, to maintain what is called a positive nitrogen balance. So your body is always in the process of building up and breaking down tissues, right? And so if you are in energy balance, or this homeostasis, there's going to be a neutral nitrogen balance, right? There's going to be the amount of nitrogen coming in is going to equal the amount of nitrogen being excreted, right? And so if you want to increase muscle mass, you want to be in a positive nitrogen balance. You want to have more nitrogen coming in. How do you do that? You increase the amount of protein that you're eating, the amount of amino acids and stuff, right? They're coming in, and this will increase your nitrogen balance, right? Now, what tends to happen, though, is if you are in a calorie deficit, your body doesn't have as many of these anabolic hormones like you would from like carbohydrates, right? So nutritionists will often tell you, and dietitians will tell you, you don't need to be eating tons of protein to maintain muscle. And this is true. If you're getting plenty of carbohydrates, and especially sugars and stuff like that in your diet, those things, and you are a healthy individual, you're not diabetic or something, right? You're going to be insulin sensitive, meaning that you are going to be able to maintain your muscle mass on a lot less protein, because carbohydrates are anabolic. Insulin is an anabolic hormone. When you eat carbohydrates, it spikes insulin, drives more protein to the muscles. It's promoting growth, right? Well, the issue here is that if you want to lose body fat, you need to be reducing your calories. This means you have less insulin circulating around the bloodstream, less total calories coming around. And so if you simply just take, let's say, for example, you're eating a balanced diet, right? And you're eating like your burger and salad and maybe some fries or whatever, right? And you have a balance. You have carbohydrates, proteins, fats, you got some vegetables for some of that fiber and nutrients and whatnot, and there's balance there, right? Okay? In this situation, you don't need to be eating excessive amounts of protein. You got plenty of carbohydrates carrying out the deal there. Now, if you want to lose body fat, though, you need to be eating less of what you're eating. And what oftentimes happens is that when people aren't dieting, they'll be, drinking pop, they'll be eating donuts, they'll be eating cookies, cake, eating pasta, chips, pizza, burgers, a wide variety of different foods and stuff like that. And when they go on a diet, sometimes what I think is going on is that they think, okay, since I'm not going to be able to eat as much food, at least when I do get to eat, I want to eat food that tastes good. So they continue to eat the same kinds of food, but they just eat less of these foods. And what the problem comes in is that you start losing muscle mass, because you are eating the same percentage-wise of carbohydrates, fats, and proteins in your diet, but you're just eating less of them, meaning that you're also eating less protein, meaning that you're also taking in less nitrogen, meaning that you are in a net nitrogen deficit because you're not bringing enough calories in to sustain yourself. So your body's requirements for nitrogen is going to go up, but the problem is you're not taking enough protein, so you're not getting enough nitrogen, and so you're going to start to be losing that muscle. So on the flip side of this, if you are not in a calorie deficit, what is going to happen if you continue to eat a balanced diet, right? i.e. having ample amounts of all macronutrients, carbohydrates, fats, proteins, all these different things, and then you start lifting weights, you are going to be doing exactly what bodybuilders, strongmen, powerlifters, and any other guy who's trying, or guy or gal who's trying to build more muscle is doing, right? You are in a calorie surplus, or at least at calorie maintenance, and so you're going to be increasing muscle mass. Muscle is going to be growing bigger because you have extra calories coming in, right? And this isn't necessarily this isn't a bad thing either, right? It's not the muscles that are making you look bloated and bulky. It's because you are in this calorie surplus, and you're in a growth phase, right? And so there's no reason for your body to start stripping off the fat that is covering the muscles, because a lot of times these gals, they start working out because they want to lose some body fat. They want to get that tone and everything, right? And they're even a skinny gal, right? And because I remember years ago, I was doing an internship at Gold's Gym, and there's this girl. She'd come in every day and she'd run on the treadmill, maybe 3, 4, 5 miles, right? And they did a body fat assessment on her, and her body fat percentage was at 30%. So she was skinny, she looked thin, but she was actually overly fat. And by the same token, you can have these bodybuilders, right, who are 200 plus pounds, 250 sometimes, and if they're taking the steroids, 275 pounds, and so they're overweight, but they're under fat. Their body fat percentage is down in this like 4%, and Ronnie Coleman's might have even been, at like 0 at one point, is what he said, right? And so just extremely low levels of body fat, right? And so you have this fat over those muscles, and then if you start increasing the size of the muscle, the fat gets pushed out, right? And so it makes you look kind of puffy. And this is why some of these, fitness models, right? You get a 6 foot tall guy who's about around 200 pounds or whatever. He's going to look great, right? He's got that athletic build. He's not overly large. He kind of looks like Frank Zane from the golden era of bodybuilding. He looks like a beach, he's got his beach body, beach model, look and stuff. Looks great, right? Now, if he had 30% body fat though, over those muscles, guaranteed he'd be looking like a sumo wrestler, okay? So it's not the muscles that are making you look bloated and fat. It's the fact that you're not eating a diet that's conducive to losing fat, and so as the muscles are getting bigger, you're just pushing your fat out. So what's the solution? Well, the solution is to create synergy between your workout goal, your workout design, and the design of your diet. Okay? So, a couple hormones we want to talk about right here. We have insulin, we have growth hormone. Okay? You also have adrenaline and things like that. But the two main ones we want to concern ourselves with right now is insulin and growth hormone. Insulin is this anabolic hormone, as I was talking about before. When you're getting plenty of carbohydrates and sugars in your diet, you don't need as much protein because those things are going to keep you in a more anabolic growth state, right? Adding rather than subtracting. Now, when you go for a period of time without eating, or when you haven't had enough food to eat for a while, the levels of insulin are going to start dropping, and levels of growth hormone and glucagon are going to start to rise. So growth hormone is going to help you to extract fat from your fat stores to start using that for energy. And the glucagon is also going to help you to convert your glycogen stores, and in extreme cases, even your protein stores and stuff like that, into usable energy when the food from your meal decreases to beyond a certain point, right? And so what we want to do, if our goal is to lift weights without getting bulky or getting bigger, and lift weights and lose fat at the same time, then we want to keep our protein levels the same or even slightly higher. So what this means is, and this is why I talk about, you need to have structure in your diet first before you start to try to lose weight. Okay? Because if you try to lose weight simply eating less of what you're already eating, if you're not already eating a balanced diet and you just simply cut back your calories, and so let's say you're eating a diet that's high in carbohydrates, sugars, processed grains, and stuff like that, you simply just eat less of those things, Now your body's not going to have enough protein or enough calories to support your muscle mass and your metabolic functions. Thus, you're going to start losing fat and you're going to lose muscle. And since muscle is more costly in terms of energy, your body's actually going to strip more muscle mass away because it wants to keep your heart and your brain and your organs functioning versus having bigger muscles, right? Muscle mass is a less of a concern to your body in a starvation state. So that's going to be one of the things that is probably going to burn faster, maybe even than fat. So you're going to lose fat and you're going to lose muscle at the same rate if you are keeping your diet the same in a high carb, high fat state and just reducing calories, okay? So the first thing you want to do to have a solid framework baseline diet is to take your body weight, figure out what is my lean body weight. And then 1 gram of protein per pound of lean body weight should be the baseline, right? And that doesn't mean that, because like your metabolism can slow down and stuff like that too, right? So in the past, I had jobs where I didn't get the opportunity to eat all the time. I also had a lot of inflammation from gut issues. As a result, my metabolism adapted over time. Initially, when I started this job, I was working all the time and I wasn't able to eat enough, so I lost 20 pounds and then I started building it back up because my metabolism adjusted to the amount of calories that I was eating. So rather than focusing on that I have to eat, let's say if you're a 200-pound guy, I have to eat 200 grams of protein every day, which, wow, that sounds like a lot of protein. But when you think about it, there's 4 calories per gram of protein, right? So 200, that would be about only 800 calories coming from protein, right? So it might sound like a lot, and yes, it's very filling. That's one of the advantages of eating more protein and also keeping those fats in there too, in moderation. You don't want to have loads of fat, right? This isn't an admonition to add like cheese and bacon and all this other stuff and just load up on the fat, right? But if there's fat in the meat, you don't need to cut that fat down to extremely low levels artificially, right? You can keep the fat in there, right? It's like keep things how they are naturally occurring in nature and eat them in balance, right? So if you're eating this protein and stuff, it's very filling. In fact, I used to, like when I was a long distance runner, I would eat, I'm running like 50 miles a week. I'd eat, 5 bowls of cereal for breakfast, I started adding whey protein to that meal and it cut it down to like 3. So now I am looking like I'm eating more calories and stuff, or I'm increasing my protein, right? But my total calories actually decreased because I had added the protein in there, right? So that's the one thing to keep in mind there. All right, so I had to take a little bit of a break from the video. Hopefully I didn't lose my train of thought too much here. I'm still on track. Anyway, what I was trying to say there is that you want to keep that protein at about that 1 gram of protein per pound of lean body weight, about 0.5 gram of fat per pound of lean body weight, as I've talked about in other videos. And again, as I've talked about in other videos, this is not that you have to actually consume that much protein. In fact, when you eat, one of the advantages of building your diet around protein is that it automatically tends to make it so that you eat the right amount of calories for you, right? So what we want to do, instead of saying I have to fit in this amount of protein, is to focus on eating no more than 50 grams of protein at any one meal, right? So if you're a woman, probably a good starting place is to have 20 grams of protein in every main meal, right? And then maybe having a couple snacks there too. You could have a bigger meal and have more protein in it too, right? But at a minimum, you should have 20 grams of protein in your meal, right? And eat that protein first, and then having, 10 grams of fat along with that protein, right? And you can have that, right? If you're a bigger guy, so you're this 200-pound guy, maybe you're gonna need 200 grams of protein, right? So then you'd want to be having about 50 grams of protein and split that up over 4 different meals over the course of the day, right? And so it's not going to hurt your kidneys to eat more protein at one time, right? As they used to think that it would. In fact, if you don't have kidney problems, it's not going to do that. But what it will do is that your body, instead of using that protein for muscle protein synthesis or protein maintenance protein and muscle building purposes, it's going to use that protein for energy. And the conversion process of taking protein and converting it into glucose is very inefficient. And so you'd be better off, and it would also be cheaper to get that extra energy from carbohydrates and fats rather than adding it in the form of protein. All right, so now that you've figured out those macros and you have the protein, carbs, and fat split over the appropriate number of meals, now every single time that you eat, the goal is to eat that amount of protein that you're supposed to have in that meal. So anywhere between that 20 to 50 grams of protein, okay? So the goal is not that you have to eat 200 grams or 120 grams of protein a day. The goal is that every single time you eat the percentage of your daily quota for that meal in that meal, okay? And this will naturally tell you how many calories you should eat over the course of the day, right? If you are super active, right, you're working out all the time, you're probably going to end up at the higher end of that range, right? You're going to be eating more calories. So like a 200-pound guy, if he's trying to bulk up, maybe he's working out a ton, right? You're exercising, you're in the gym, 4 to 6 days a week, training hard, and you're eating that 200 grams of protein, but your total calories are maybe up at like 4,000 calories, just because of the extra energy expenditure that you're using, and you're also trying to add more muscle, right? But if you're not exercising as much, you're not going to be as hungry to eat that amount. And that's what people tend to overeat on things like the candy, the pizza, the higher carbohydrate, higher sugar things, because they also make you hungrier and hungrier sooner as well. Protein is very hard to overeat on, and I've talked about in some other videos as well, they've done studies that even if you overeat protein, and you're getting extra calories in from protein, so you're above maintenance with the protein, it's still very hard to gain excess body fat eating too much protein. In the past, when I was first getting my ACE personal training certification, and in the data they said you don't want to eat too much protein in your diet, because if you eat more protein than you need, it'll turn to fat. No, what's more likely is that you're eating more total calories, and so the carbohydrates and fats are actually turning into fat, not the protein. Okay, so once you have that all dialed in, now your focus is, if you are not wanting to build more muscle or get bigger and you want to shed some body fat when you're lifting weights, right? So you're afraid, I don't want to get too bulky, I want to get toned, I want to have muscle definition. Then you want to make sure you keep your protein at that 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, maybe even bump it up to 1.5 grams per pound of lean body weight, and decrease your total calories by about 20%. And the easiest way you can do this is by first cutting out the sugars, maybe cut back a little bit on the fruit and the starch, right? Keep your vegetables, keep your healthy fats, keep your proteins in until the very last. Protein should never decrease below 1 gram of protein, especially if you are trying to lose body fat. Keep on lifting. That's going to help give another stimulus for your body to hang on to muscle, right? You want to keep on lifting hard, lifting heavy and stuff like that, even as you're dieting, and that's going to cause you to get leaner. So the lifting isn't going to cause you to get all bulky and stuff unless you are in a calorie surplus. All right, so if you want to further ensure that you are decreasing your body fat, if you want to get lean, if you want to make sure that you're not bulking up too much, you can even add a little bit of cardiovascular exercise on top of that. And in fact, you should be getting at least 120 to 180 minutes of zone 2 cardio. For some people that'll be walking, for other people that'll be jogging or light cycling, but per week, that's how much you should be getting just for general health. So aside from trying to get lean, trying to any of that kind of stuff, right? Do it for your health, right? So if you want to further accelerate that, once you have the proper diet structure, you've decreased the carbohydrates and the total calories, maintain the protein and the fat where it's supposed to be, and then if you are, you've been doing that for a while and you feel like you want to accelerate that a little bit more, you can add in a little extra cardio and stuff. But I wouldn't go too crazy with this because your body will also adapt to that level. So only do the amount of cardio that you think that you could probably maintain for sustainably as a lifestyle, right? I guess for short periods of time, you could ramp it up a little bit and then gradually dial it back, and then just making sure that you're not continuing to consume the same amount that you were when you're doing all that cardio, right? But the cardio is not absolutely necessary. You can get quite lean just lifting weights, eating a proper diet. But if you want to accelerate that a little bit, it's also good for your mind, right? Doing things like walking and jogging are actually the shock waves and stuff. They help with your memory. They help generate creativity, and also getting more oxygen and endorphins and those feel-good chemicals to your brain. There's a guy, Chris Voss. He was an FBI negotiator. He wrote a book called Never Split the Difference. And in some of his training courses, he talks about how when you are feeling good, when you're happy, when you're in a positive state, you're actually more intelligent. So that's another positive benefit, how cardiovascular exercise can help you to become a smarter person, simply just because of the endorphins and you're just feeling more positive. So you get the shock waves from hitting the ground that stimulate your brain. You also get more oxygen to the brain, and then just simply because of the endorphins that make you feel happier and more positive overall, you're going to be smarter from that as well. So personally, one of the most effective ways that I've found to get stronger, stay lean, and not generate excessive amounts of muscle mass either, to be more like a bodybuilder, although you could modify the program for that as well and you could be more muscular too, is something that I call hybrid strength. So in my hybrid strength programs, you start off, I actually have 3 of them. You have the one which is kind of an introduction to that. If you have no weightlifting experience, we take you through 4 different months where we start you off with more endurance, body weight type exercises. For some people, they're going to be using free weights. Some people it's a mix of those different ones. You're going to be probably doing 1 to 3 sets between 10 reps to 20 reps per set, and you're going to do that for 1 month, right? You're going to be doing these different workouts, full body workouts, about 2 to 3 days a week, work the entire body, just to build up that endurance, increase that metabolic efficiency, and build up the resilience of your tendons and your ligaments, right? The second month, you're going to be working on something more of a bodybuilding style of training. So again, working in the moderate rep range, moderate loading, a little bit moderate rest periods in between your sets, so 45 to 60 seconds in between your sets. This is going to help you to build a little bit more muscle mass. And then we go into more of a powerlifting style of training in the third month where you're lifting heavier weights, somewhere between 85 to 100 to 95% of your 1 rep max, and anywhere between 8 repetitions all the way to 3 to 1 repetitions, depending on what the cycle is. And we do that for about 1 month, right? That's going to give you that strength stimulus. And then in the 4th month, we introduce power training, which is moving lighter weights with a little bit more speed. It's also sprinting, jumping, more athletic type movements, right? And that would be the first month of that. Now, actual hybrid strength training combines all 4 of those different modalities into one system. It makes it for a very efficient, fast workout that's going to help you to become not only maintain and even build a little bit of that lean muscle, but also to efficiently burn the body fat, because you're maintaining your metabolic rate at a high level. You're going to increase your strength, and you are also increasing levels of adrenaline, human growth hormone, testosterone, while you're doing these power movements and the sprint exercises. And then you're using some cardiovascular exercise afterwards in a short period of time to then mop up any of those fatty acids that have been released from your fat stores into your bloodstream to then be used to fuel the lower intensity exercise. And then we bring down the cortisol levels, bring down the inflammation and stuff afterwards with some deep breathing, qigong, tai chi, or yoga type movements to kind of bring you to a more restive state. If that kind of stuff interests you, you might want to shoot me an email at aceproaaron@gmail.com. I'll send you over some of the information on that. Otherwise, if you like this video, make sure you hit that like button. And if you'd like to see more information related to workout design for either losing body fat, building muscle, improving athletic performance, or helping you to work around injuries that you might sustain in the course of your athletic journey, and also how to prevent getting those injuries in the first place, consider subscribing to the channel by hitting the button in the lower right-hand corner of the screen, and we'll see you all next time for more health and fitness information.